In the previous CD, How to Use TPS, we went over the basic functions of the appointment book. In this CD, we'll go over how to use some of the more advanced utilities of the appointment book. To get started, we can click our appointment icon up here to open the appointment book. And over here on the left, we can see the time column. Here's our start time at 9 a.m. all the way down to 6 p.m. at the end of the day. Here we currently have 5-minute intervals for each appointment, which we can change via the schedule properties as was discussed in the previous videos. Now your office probably isn't as busy in the morning as it is in the afternoon, or vice versa. You probably have very hectic moments of the day where people are scheduled more often in a certain section of time. Currently, you can only have one 9 o'clock appointment for every column that you have. Now, you could create another column each time you need another 9 o'clock appointment, but that's a little cumbersome and really clutters up your appointment book. To get around this, TPS has a utility known as the time grouping feature. It allows you to create multiple 9 a.m. slots, multiple 9:10 slots, and so forth and so on. Let's go ahead and go through how we would set that up. Close out of here, open our Start menu, and click Appointment Grouping here in the middle column. Here we have the beginning of day and the end of day, and the minute intervals. This is the default as our appointment book is currently set up. We're going to go ahead and leave the time start and end of day as is, but we're going to change the interval to 10. Then we're going to hit this Create and Clear Time Grouping button. And you'll notice that everything over here is blank now, starting at 9, going to 6, with 10-minute intervals in between. Now let's say I want to double up on my 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. appointments. What I can do is highlight 9 a.m. here and copy it by hitting Control and C on my keyboard, clicking in this group code column, and then hitting Control and V on my keyboard to paste. Go down one more and do the same thing. Now I have two 9 a.m. appointments. Here I'll highlight 9:10 and do the same thing, all the way down until I have 2 for each slot until 10. Now you can see here though there's a small discrepancy because 10 a.m. is technically at 11. What we can do is play a little catch up by taking 10:20, then 10:40. We're going to do this until we reach noon, and then we'll be caught up and back in line with our original schedule. Basically what this is you creating a schedule that allows for your busy morning but your slower afternoon. This can be done for any time of the day for your appointments. From here, I'll simply copy what's in this section and paste it over to the right, all the way down to 6. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward real quick. And here I have now filled it all out. I'm not going to make you guys sit through all that, but once you're done, go ahead and click this Close X button here and open your appointment book. Here we can see the time is still the original time. We need to apply the time grouping. To do so, click the Schedule Properties button, and over here we can see a checkbox that says Use Time Grouping. If I click it, it'll look for the time grouping in the program and change the from and to time to the appropriate times, and it'll blink minutes out to 0 because it's going to use the interval located within the time grouping. If I click Load, we can see behind me that now I have both time columns here. If I were to hit Close, it would remain that way. If I only want to see the time grouping I've created, I can click Schedule Properties, Show Time Grouping Only, and then load it up. Here we have 9, 9, 9:10, 9:10, all the way down to 10, just like we set up, and then 20-minute intervals until noon, and then it's normal throughout the rest of the day. Now if I were to close out of the appointment book and open it back up, it would revert back to the original time grouping. I have to save this feature, just like I do when I move my columns around or adjust the size. I can left click the question mark, click Save Custom Screen Settings, and then save. Now when I close, come back in, it'll be the time grouping that I set. And that about wraps up the time groupings. Moving on, we're going to discuss grouping schedule columns together, so when you're doing multi-appointments and a particular column is booked, it'll look to the next one as long as they're under the same schedule group. What I'm referring to is this tab up here where it says multi-appointment. I could select a column, such as Dr. John here, who has 2 columns, try to make an appointment, and if there's a conflict, I have to manually go to it and resolve that conflict. However, if I were to group these 2 columns together and try to schedule an appointment for the first one, but it was booked, it would automatically look for that same time in the second column and schedule an appointment there if it's open. What we can do is get started. We'll go ahead and close this down. We're going to hit the Start menu. We're going to go to our Basic System Information, the registry, under this Basics box. From here, we'll click this drop down and go to Column Groups. Currently we have no groups, so we'll go ahead and add a new entry by clicking this button down here in the bottom left. And we'll just name it Group Number 1. And the name will be something along the lines of Dr. John. Once done, I'll click Exit. And now I'm going to go to the doctor provider information, opening my Start menu, middle column, Doctor/Provider. I'm going to bring up Dr. John. Go to his schedule columns for this provider. And here we see he has 2 columns called Dr. John. And we have a column with a drop-down called Column Group, where we can select the column group type. I'm going to apply the Dr. John column group to both of these scheduling columns. After I've assigned them to the column group, I have to check this box here that says Column uses grouped times to enable this feature. Now, whenever I'm doing some multi-appointment booking and I have to select one column or the other, it'll look for an open time for the first column I selected, but if there's not an available time, it'll look to the next column as long as they're within the same column group. This saves you some hassle instead of having to resolve every conflict on your own. Now, what I showed you was a way to group one particular provider's columns together. You can select multiple providers, such as multiple therapists, and put them all under one therapist column group. To do so, we're going to go back to our registry, go to Column Groups, add a new one, and this time I'll call it Therapists. Click Exit. I'm going to go back to the doctors. This time I'm going to bring up one of my therapists, Elizabeth here. Go to her schedule columns and assign her to the therapists. Make sure you're checking off the box. And now I don't have another PT in here. I have other disciplines, OTs, PTAs, MDs, etc. But if I had another therapist, I could assign them to the column group of therapists, and that way I could schedule anybody for any available time slot that is grouped with the therapist's group column. Now let's go ahead and show you just exactly how this works. Open the appointment book. And here we have 2 columns for Miss Smith, and we have 2 columns for Dr. John. If I schedule Benjamin here at 9 a.m. for Patty Smith, go to the Multi-Appointment tab, and try to schedule him for that same column at that same time for that same day, it's going to create a conflict because the columns are not grouped together. I would have to actually select the other column for her, select the day, and then create appointment. Going back to Dr. John, if I select Benjamin and schedule him for 9 a.m., go to the Multi-Appointment tab, leave it with that same column, same time, same day, and hit Create Appointment, it automatically sees that the first column has a conflict, but because the columns are grouped together, it went to the next column in the list, the second column for Dr. John. If I were to go to Done, and go back to my day schedule, I can see here that it automatically selected this appointment slot for this patient. This is going to be really handy when you're scheduling patients weeks out in advance and you don't really have the time to be editing every single conflict that arises. Now, this won't resolve every single conflict issue in the future, but it will save you quite a bit of time. Now let's say you need to block off a specific section of time or a specific day for a provider in the future. There are a couple ways to do this. The first way is through the Schedule column availability by going to the Doctor Provider section, selecting the provider you want. And let's say his first column, and we'll go to his availability. Let's say in a couple weeks he's not going to be here on Wednesday. What we can do is blank out this time so that Wednesday is empty. and then set it for the specific day. Let's say it's going to be the 9th. Make sure you select only the 9th. So the from and to field will be the 9th. And we're going to do it for all columns because he's not going to be in the office to see anybody. Once you're sure the date range is correct and everybody in the office is out of the appointment book, go ahead and hit Apply Schedule. And the pop-up will say that the schedule availability has been set. And now, if we go to the appointment book, on the 9th, we can see that Dr. John is not available when he usually is on a Wednesday. Another way to do this is through the Multi-Appointment tab within the appointment book itself. Going to your appointment book, select Multi-Appointment tab. From here, select a column. In this case, we're just going to do Dr. John's first column. And we're going to do the time from 9 until 6 p.m. And then down here we have two options, Make Unavailable and Block Off Appointment Slots. If I select Make Unavailable, every slot will just have the word Unavailable indicating that the provider can't be scheduled. If I select Block Off Appointment Slots, I can type in a special note here, such as Convention for the weekend. Then go over here to the days. It's at the end of October, starting on Thursday. If I hit Create Appointments, we can see here the activity says what we typed in. And once we're done, if we go to that day, we can see that the column has been blocked off in all the appointment slots with the message set. Now, that's a pretty nifty tool, but note, there is no way to bring up blocked off appointment slots within the Multi-Appointment tab. If you do need to delete one, go to the day schedule, find the blocked off appointment, highlight the first section of it, and delete it. And the rest will go away as long as it's all part of one continuous block off. Another note is that the Multi-Appointment tab can only block off one column at a time. So if the doctor has multiple columns, you may just want to use the feature that we went over first in the availability time and just apply it to all his columns for that day or that set of days. Depending on the situation, you have a couple options at hand. Now in the previous videos, we briefly pointed out the statistics down here at the bottom when talking about the show drop down here at the top. If I click this drop down and just simply select all details, all I'll see is my appointment book along with some pertinent information about the selected appointment here at the top. If I select details and stats, I can see some statistics about the types of appointments I have. Here we have 7 different types of statistics: scheduled, checked out, walk-ins, in-office pending, canceled, Mr. Late, and rescheduled. I'll go ahead and go over the first 3, scheduled, checked out, and in-office pending. This relates to the booking status when using the loop. For instance, go ahead and schedule Mr. Benjamin here, 9:55. And here you can see that scheduled has gone up by 1. And it says Jonathan Greenwood over here on the left. This will total all of Jonathan Greenwood's appointments on the entire appointment book, regardless of column. If I click over here, it's still Jonathan Greenwood's column, so it'll show his statistics. Clicking over here, I'm now on Dr. Mark, and his statistics are 0 because he has no appointments yet. Same thing over here for Phyllis. Clicking back to John, if I double click to indicate that he's been checked in, to change it to the pinkish color, and start the fee slip, we can see, once I click off and back on, that he's now in office and pending. He's still scheduled, obviously, so that still remains there. But this indicates that he's in the office or he's pending to be checked in. The process has started and the loop has begun. Once everything's said and done and I'm ready to check him out, I'll double click his name again, apply services, schedule for future appointments, and then once I go back to my day schedule, we can see the color has changed, and this checked out statistic has gone up by 1, and the in-office pending statistic has gone down to 0 again. Pretty simple. Just to recap, the scheduled, checked out, and in-office pending statistics simply revolve around the scheduled patients and their particular booking status at the time. Above this, we have the walk-in statistic. The walk-in statistic can be calculated by creating a column specifically called walk-ins. Perhaps you offer a service that patients can come in, such as massage, and get without an appointment set up ahead of time. To calculate walk-ins, we have to create a column called walk-ins, as I've already done here. Once I've scheduled somebody in the walk-ins, the statistic will go up by 1. Now, this only works if you have a patient in the system already. I can't type in a newcomer who's never been in the office before who's walked off the street, like so, and have it calculate. You do need the patient at least entered into the program first. The last 3 statistics down here, canceled, missed late, and rescheduled, all correlate to messages within the program. If the patient has canceled and you attach a message that says cancel to them, then this will go up by 1. If they're late and the message says late within it, this will go up by 1. And if the patient is rescheduled and the message attached to them has the word rescheduled in it, this will go up by 1. Let's go ahead and walk through real quick what that looks like. Alright, so if I schedule somebody here, refresh, it now shows they're late. Fred Kane is also late, so the missed late messages has gone up by 2. The patient is late message comes preloaded in the program, so you don't have to set this one up, and this statistic will take care of itself. The canceled and rescheduled messages, however, have to be created if you want to utilize this particular feature. It's very simple to do so. We can go ahead and go to our Start menu, go to Messages, and here I've already created one called Patient Canceled. The most important note is that the message description must have the word canceled located within it. It must also be able to generate automatically and attach to appointment. So let's say I scheduled somebody for 11. Cascella here. I'm going to go ahead and add a message. Select Patient Canceled. Make sure you attach it to appointment. Then click Save. Here we can see the canceled statistic has gone up by 1. The message attached says Patient Canceled. Now I know that the patient here has canceled their appointment and they will not be coming in. This same method can be applied to messages with the word rescheduled in them. Go down and make a new appointment. Amanda. I'm going to add a new message to her. And here I have already created one called Patient Rescheduled. Make sure I attach it to appointment, otherwise it won't take effect. Click Save, and we can see here that Reschedule has gone up by 1. Utilizing this feature, along with correctly implementing the loop within your office, you can keep track of quite a bit of information via the statistics within your appointment book. This concludes the Advanced Appointment Features video of the How to Use TPS Advanced CD.